I don't know if you guys have known this, but I love Monster Hunter. My first introduction to the franchise was Monster Hunter Freedom on the PlayStation Portable, which was a port of the PlayStation 2 version, just without the online multiplayer. The series has so many iconic monsters, like the cover art of the Rathlos, the deadly Diablos, or the terrifying Tigrex. With each new iteration into the series, Capcom has only expanded onto the universe by adding more monsters, more weapon types, and locations to explore. That said, with each game, it did come off as a copy and paste job with a few quality of life changes. The series did not stray far from the formula of loading into a map, exploring each instance zone until you find the boss, and then beat the ever-living shit out of it until you can make its armor. The literal terminology for this franchise has always been, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Until now. Clearly, Capcom did something right here. It's only less than a week, and Monster Hunter World has already sold over 5 million copies worldwide. The only thing Capcom screwed up on was making that the PlayStation 4 Pro bundle super limited and restricted it to United States only, boning us Leafs in the process.
Fuck you! Fuck you, fuck you! Fuck you!
Many people could attribute its success to the current market and lack of fleshed out co-op games, but it goes a little deeper than that, and I hope to cover some of those bases with this video. I believe I can boil down the success of Monster Hunter World to 3 simple reasons: accessibility, quality of life changes, and context. When many players hear these words, majority of the time it results in disappointment. Usually it means to the core gamers that the next entry will be dumbed down to appeal to a wider audience. But for Monster Hunter Worlds, I firmly believe a few simple changes in the name of accessibility actually worked demonstrably well in its favor. The foremost issue for Monster Hunter players has always been how the game controls. The first entry was on the PlayStation 2, and that was fine. But from there on, it's been on the PSP and the 3DS. Just thinking back to how we had to utilize the claw on the PSP gives me carpal tunnel. Transitioning to a real controller, whether it's Xbox or PlayStation, feels more at home. Button layouts took some adjusting to, but after a few hours felt more natural. Next we have probably the best kind of change: a video tutorial of each weapon along with its moveset and abilities. By far, the biggest barrier to entry in Monster Hunter is knowing what each weapon can do, in regards to its strengths and weaknesses. Simply having a quick video show players in-game what they can do can help determine whether or not it's something they might enjoy or pass up on in favor of something else.
It's good. That's good shit right there.
Along with appealing to a new audience, Monster Hunter has always had a fairly niche but dedicated core user base. With each new iteration, there has always been a quality of life changes to appeal to the core players, but it's safe to say in this regard, Worlds has taken the crown for the best changes made yet. With the introduction to a 16-player lobby, it makes it tremendously easier to hang out and play with your friends. Before this, we had to use a 4-player gathering hall area to matchmake with other players. It did the job, but there were many wasted hours either searching for other players or sitting around until somebody hopped in your lobby who wanted the same target as you. Which leads me to my favorite quality of life change: being able to join other players while they're already midway through their mission. The way it was before was, if somebody jumps in on your gathering hall while you are already playing, you would have to abandon the quest and return to the gathering hall, wasting time in the process. However, the thing that frustrated many hunters in the past was inventory management. For tougher quests, you would have to battle with your item bag to manage your different bullet types and crafting materials, which is why I am super happy that they decided to give players split inventories for crafting and gunner ammunition. Another good idea that they decided to add was the wish list. Since crafting is a huge component to the Monster Hunter franchise, it was a very smart idea to have a checklist of materials to gather that would pop up if you happen to come across any. A clever way to keep players chasing after that shiny carrot on a stick.
Yes! Yes!
Last but not least, the most important part to keep players engaged in the game and its various mechanics: the context. The thing that keeps me invested the most in a universe is how players' functions and mechanics are justified and make sense in the world that we are exploring. I believe the SOS flare is a perfect example. With the lobby system, you could help out friends whenever you wanted, but if you felt like you bit off a little bit more than you can handle, you can always open the menu and fire up an SOS flare. How the mechanic works is that it puts a specific mission open to matchmaking, so players in different lobbies can choose to come and save the day. It makes sense from a technical standpoint, but more importantly, it fits into the world around it. It doesn't feel out of place. Now, the more debatable change to Monster Hunter World is the implementation of the scout flies. They do have an explanation in the story why they are important to the lore, but from a gameplay perspective, they are massively required for new players. Unlike prior games, these maps are huge and multi-leveled. It is so easy to get lost and not recognize what is a thing that you can interact with, without the scout flies highlighting it. They do take a little bit of getting used to, but I prefer keeping them on, because they do go into hiding when you're engaged in combat. So it's not like they're constantly on screen. An option to disable them would be nice though. However, I find the most engaging change to this game was the implementation of turf wars between the different bosses. I think it's safe to say that Monster Hunter Worlds went the extra mile to make different zones look and feel like real ecosystems. To accompany this, it felt required to have a food chain with the different bosses that you encounter. So, whenever players get a chance to witness the bosses going at each other's throats, it's always a nice visual treat and helpful to see how much damage they do to each other. The little details like this do add to the overall experience. And that's what I believe Monster Hunter Worlds did right. Accessibility, quality of life, and context is what drove me to dumping an absurd amount of time into these games. And with that, I'm done talking. If you'd like to leave a comment on what you like the most about Monster Hunter did right, drop a few words in the comments for me, fam-a-lam. If you feel generous, feel free to support my caffeine addiction by dropping a few dollars on the coffee link in the description. And don't be afraid to send me your guild card if you find me online. Until the next video, happy hunting everyone.